something happened, so we lost signal. So we're gonna wait till he comes back. So let's see. Let's hope it works this time.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Everything good?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Before we start the interview, my friend has a question for you.
Uh-huh.
Brandon from Headdress.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon from Headdress wanted to know, what are you doing to stay sane during this isolation?
Well, I'm staying at my son's house.
Uh-huh.
So, although he's 18 and he's just into his own stuff really, so I'm cooking a lot and washing up a lot and cleaning up after him.
Oh, okay. That's good. That's good. What part of England do you live in?
It's London. It's North London.
Oh, okay.
And his mum has a really nice place, so it's quite fortunate because it's got an outdoor space, a garden.
Uh-huh.
So that's been good, and obviously playing my guitar.
Right.
I've been into work because we have I work in a school, and we stayed open for key workers, so health workers, frontline health workers,
Okay.
and so we're looking at a few kids, and also doing stuff like making sure that more or families who are entitled to extra support are getting food.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's so the work is quite kind of downscaled and laid back and a bit more relaxed, and also it's kind of nice to have somewhere to go because it gives your week a bit of a structure. But it's a bit strange because you kind of gets to Friday and it's like, yeah, it's the weekend, oh, and there's nothing to do. But
all right, I have today.
I feel lucky, so I'm good.
That's cool. Today I have a lot of questions to ask you. And some of these questions are from my friend Jacoby from Beginning of the End Fanzine as well. So we're gonna go through some of these questions. But before all these questions, the most important thing I wanted to know is I saw you a few times when you came to California on the tour. This is my friend Brian. May he rest in peace. But he has a tattoo. He has a tattoo of Omega Tri symbol. This symbol right here. And I have a tattoo of the symbol as well. So
okay, awesome.
I wanted to ask you at the show if I never had a chance to. What does the symbol stands for? The Omega Tri symbol.
Well, the symbol is it's Japanese. It's the Japanese stork symbol that we slightly adapted, and we just liked it because it's. I mean, in Japan, the stork symbol of peace and harmony. And it's the same for us, really. We took it to stand because it also looks a bit like a dove of peace. So it's we kind of took it as a symbol of peace.
Okay.
So when we were starting out, every band had to have its symbol, to put on the banner. So that's basically we looked in. We were like really young when we started Omega Tribe. Back in the 80s, we were. 17, 18, and we just went to a public library, because obviously we didn't have Google and all of that to research stuff, and just found a book of symbols and then went through and said, oh, look at this one, what's that? That. So that's how we got it. Yeah.
That's cool. You just went to the library, went through all the books, and looked for the symbol.
Found a book of symbols and went through it. Yeah, basically.
Wow. That's really cool. Okay. Tell us about the old days. You guys played at in the 80s at a Zigzag Squat gig. Tell us about your memories from the Zigzag Squat gig.
Yeah. Well, it was the Zigzag building. I mean, the building was like originally built, I think, as a cinema, so picture house. So, and it's huge, really big, and of course, bands like us never played in places of that size. And the venue was squatted for some time before that, and then a whole bunch of bands were invited to come along and play. And yeah, I think there were about 18 bands that played on the day. Everyone who was on Crass Records, and they kind of they did a kind of draw of lots for when you went on the running order of the day. although I think that was a little bit adjusted because Crass were on one from last and Dirt were on last.
Hmm.
So of course Dirt had that awful thing of playing emptying room as everyone had
Oh,
seen Crass had proceeded to drift away as it was late. But at that point, they had to get home. So, but it was an amazing event. It was really nice, the vibe in there, and I danced a lot, and we played, and it was lovely. Yeah.
that's cool. I heard Dirt played last year. Did you go to that gig when Dirt played?
Last saw Dirt, but I think they reformed for a festival in London
Uh,
in 2017,
uh,
and I there. Yeah, and I haven't heard of them since, to be honest. Although they could well have played, and I could have missed it.
Also, one of the members from Omega Tribe did a fanzine in the old days called Realities of Society Zine.
Right. Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
did that?
That was
What?
yeah. Daryl, our bass player, did
Oh,
that. Fancy.
Daryl. How come he doesn't post it online? It would be really amazing to see all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, every now and then he digs out some old Amiga Tribe thing and posts it on our Facebook page or something. But I will tell him to get. I don't know if he's got any copies of Realities of Society. We got that. I remember when we got that printed. I was more or less when I first met Daryl.
Oh,
He was a massive Crass fan, and I was more. There was a different kind of scene in London at the time that was about free gigs, and I suppose it was a bit more of the hippie thing.
you were into more
Sound.
hippie stuff.
Downs was sort of a bit that way, and the West London Ladbroke Grove thing, and there was a bit of a crossover. And then there was one night when Poison Girls played with a band called Androids of Mew,
Uh-huh.
and Daryl took me along to see that. And then once I saw Poison Girls, that was a big sort of moment for me. And then I remember when Daryl got the fanzine printed in West London, and Lance de Boyle, who was the drummer for the Poison Girls,
Uh-huh.
was helping with the printing and organising of it, and so that was the first time I met Lance and Pete Fender, who was our age, of course. So yeah, that was all a very good time when things fell into place. Yeah, and everything got printed on Gestetner printers. Yeah.
Who is still in Omega Tribe now? From any original members? Who are the original
Yeah,
members right now?
myself and Daryl. Two of the three original members. So Daryl was the bass player, I was the guitarist.
There's Daryl
and me, Hugh. Yeah, yeah.
And there's a
Yeah.
third. Who's the other person?
The third original member was Peter, and Peter now lives in Spain,
Okay.
in the south of Spain in the mountains, and he's good, but I don't see him or hear from him very often.
Okay. When your Angry Song 7-inch, the EP came out, it was on independent top 10 on the spring of 1983, which it was in the chart. How many prints was a 7-inch? How many prints did do?
I don't know.
Right?
Yeah, Crass Records. I think probably they did initial pressings of. I'm guessing. I don't know. I can't remember. Maybe 5,000, and they did more, or maybe they just did 1,000 and saw how it went. I know better for the album. I think that did 6,000 altogether at the time. Yeah, so I imagine similar numbers for the 7-inch, but I don't know. I can't remember, and I wasn't paying close enough attention.
Oh, yes, because I was reading on the old zines and stuff. I heard it was like on the independent top 10 chart and everything. It was selling well.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, you guys were playing it on small squats and stuff.
Well, we played a lot, to be fair. In 82, 83, we played a lot. We were playing pretty much every week, and a whole range of venues. The whole scene was easier. There were more venues that would put on punk bands and would let you kind of do the door yourselves. So everything was fairly cheap. So it was cheap on the door. You just took cash on the door, and you weren't paying big overheads or hires. And yeah, some squats. We played wherever really. We toured. We played with Conflict on a couple of tours. And we played with Poison Girls a bit, but we played in London a lot at the time. It was much easier, but there doesn't seem to be much in the way of, well, there are venues. That's not true, but some of the best places, of course, have gone a long time ago.
Also, you guys played at a big festival where there were thousands of people called Stonehenge Festival in 1983 and 1984. Tell us about the Stonehenge Festival in that time from 83 to 84.
Yeah. Well, at that time, the Stonehenge Festival was a big thing for me. I mean, I first went there in 1980. Yeah, I'd never seen anything like it really. You know, I was 15 years old, I think, and you know, it was another world. You know, there were all sorts of things going on, and the music. So I think just me and my friends, we took instruments, we had a band, and we just played in a little marquee or something, and you know, people were polite and everything, enjoyed it. And then that was the year, I think 80 or 81 was the year that Crass played and Flux of Pink Indians, and it was horrible. There was a really ugly, violent vibe, and it was the kind of bikers, the Hells Angels. That I don't know why, but they had a very, you know, kind of a territorial idea that this was their thing, or they said what went on, and we weren't having punk rock here, and there was a lot of violence. That, I mean, to be honest, I was completely out of it on drugs and didn't notice because I was a bit more that way inclined at the time.
That was 1981, right?
Yeah, I think it was 81.
I read it on the book. They were beating up all the punk rockers with chains and everything. Yes.
Yeah. It's a really cool thing. But as I say, I didn't have any sort of, at the time, that I only heard about that in the next morning or whatever. You know, at the time, I wasn't in danger myself, and I was just sort of, you know, getting into whatever, you know, somewhere around it. I didn't really register. And then 82, I went, and it was a much quieter affair. I remember seeing a band called Cardiac Arrest, who went on to be the Cardiacs. But at that same time, there were lots of free festivals throughout England and Wales, and there was the Convoy that followed them around. And looking back now, I was very young and I suppose quite vulnerable, and you know, people put stuff in front of me and I would just take it, you know, and but there were a lot of older people there who looked after the younger people, so you know, I was, guess, very lucky in that respect, and it was quite a safe space to kind of explore and find yourself as a young person, you know. And I had some brilliant times. I remember the Psilocybin Fair in Wales. That was a wonderful thing, although there weren't any bands or anything, and the police were trying to close the whole things down. There were just a few, you know, it was a hippie thing really, a few hippies in a valley in Wales looking at the stars and having a nice time. Deeply Vale, that's where I saw Discharge. They played there. So there was a bit of a crossover between the hippies and the punks, and the whole thing was quite cool for a while. Ruts DC, it was just after, you know, a bit after Malcolm Owen died, so the Ruts played there, and it was great. It was really good. And then in 83, we played in Stonehenge, and we were very fortunate because Pete Fender had joined us by this point, was our guitarist, and he knew the guy that did the sound, and I don't know who decided to put us on, you know, the big stage on the, you know, a really good slot. So it was great. You know, we came on just after a guy called Tony McPhee, who was in a band called the Groundhogs, and they were kind of like, you know, he was a kind of guitar hero type guy, kind of, you know, heavy rock kind of thing. It's a bit different from us, so, but there were lots of really good people there, and, you know, it was a really, you know, really lucky to have played that gig. It was great. The following year was a bit different. Again, luck of the draw, we were on you know, during the day, which is always a slightly different vibe at a festival when you're on, you know, in daylight from, you know, in the night time, but it was equally lovely. And it's, you know, it was a beautiful thing. And in 1985, the government, the UK government, just completely clamped down on the Convoy. You may have heard of the Beanfield, which is an awful abuse.
I saw all the riots and everything from that.
Yeah, well,
they were arresting people.
The Convoy was just a group of vehicles, and it was typically kind of old coaches and old buses and vans converted into homes, people's homes,
right.
You know, travellers. And the police kind of corralled them in this Beanfield and basically smashed all their vehicles.
They're smashing, yeah.
Yeah, assaulted everybody, women with babies. It was absolutely appalling, disgusting thing. But the state just decided that this wouldn't be allowed to continue. It was appalling. So, but the Stonehenge movement is still kind of going. It's, obviously Stonehenge is a very important place for Druids and other people who are into kind of pagan religions, as well as just a sort of emblem of freedom for a lot of people. So it's kind of an important part of the subculture in the UK. Yeah.
That's really cool because in California in the 80s, we didn't have anything like that. The only close to hippies we had is if we go to Grateful Dead show in the parking lot, all the deadheads and hippies will hang out. That's the closest thing we had, but we didn't have like what you guys had in England.
Sure. Yeah. Well, there was a band called Here and Now who they did a thing where it's kind of like I'm talking about this crossover. The idea was that all of their gigs were free. You never paid to get in. You paid what you could. And they did a tour with The Fall, probably in about 1979, 1980. And The Fall, I don't know if you've heard of The Fall.
But yes. I love The Fall, the early Fall. I really love the early stuff.
But they're a long way away from hippies, right? The whole Marquis Smith is, so completely different, but quite healthy. That whole kind of crossover that was there. And you had bands like the Astronauts and Zounds, who you might have heard of, they were kind of on the edge of all this kind of stuff. Patrick Fitzgerald, I don't know who's a singer, really good, lots of really brilliant music, and you could just go and hang out in West London and catch a show, and it was good times, yeah.
By the way, my favorite song from The Fall is the one goes, Madness in My Area. It's all acoustic, Madness in My Area. Okay, then your album came out, No Love Lost album. It was so different than all these other punk bands because at that time bands were sounding heavy, and you guys what I want to ask is you had a woman backup vocalist, the one who goes System, we're not your pretty boy. Who was that? The backup vocalist.
That is Vice Versa from the Poison Girls. Had two children. One of them is Bender, and one of them is Gemma. And that's Gemma singing on our record. That was Gemma
from Rebella Valley doing backup vocals? Wow, I didn't know that. How come she didn't do more vocals on the album? I love that voice.
Yeah. Well, I guess we just got her to guest
on guest vocal.
But she wasn't ever kind of in the band, although I think she did come on stage with us on a couple of occasions, possibly, and sing, and yeah. But obviously she was in Rebella Ballet and playing the bass and singing.
That album was so original sounding. My favorite song is Pictures. It started with the acoustic picture. Picture. Yeah. I don't know if you know this or not. In the 90s, there was a band called Nausea, and they did a cover song of Omega Tribe on the live cassette. I think it was Freedom, Peace, and Unity they did and stuff.
Yeah. I've also heard a cover version of Is There a Future?
Yeah. I was very... I was very surprised Nausea doing a cover song of Omega Tribe because they were like a heavy crust band. And I was surprised. They're doing an Omega Tribe cover. It was very surprising and stuff. Okay, also, by the way, since we're talking about the album No Love Lost, Pete Fender, his mom was V from Poison Girls, right? May she rest in paradise. But why did Pete Fender leave the band?
I don't know. I think, to be honest, we got to this place where we sort of struggled. We played the same set when No Love Lost came out, and we played the same set a lot. Mm-hmm. And then we sort of struggled to take the next step and move on. And we weren't writing freely with Pete in the band. And we recorded It's a Hard Life and When I'm With You with him. And I don't know, it was just different musical vibes. On reflection, looking back, I wish we'd stuck with it because it was actually quite good. But I don't. It just didn't work out, and we thought we knew better. When you're young, you do think you know better, and with hindsight, maybe you didn't.
So after your album, then It's a Hard Life came out. That was so different. Were you trying to go more of like the pop direction or new wave direction with the Hard Life?
Yeah, we were. We kind of, I suppose we felt in a little bit of a rut with the punk scene.
Uh-huh.
To be honest, the punk scene wasn't always positive from about 1984 onwards. You know, there was always a sort of thread of violence in the air, but I don't know. We tried to do something a bit different, so we got Jane in the band who played the saxophone and the flute.
Right. Yes. On that.
We changed our drummer for someone who was more kind of conventional. Pete stayed in the band, but he started doing percussion as well as having a drummer.
Okay.
Yeah, and we had different people joined us as singers. A guy called Toby came and sung with us as well. We were just trying things out, and then Poison Girls had a management thing with a guy called Martin Goldschmidt, who at the time ran or had been involved with something called No Nukes Music. So he's quite well connected as a kind of promoter. And he took us on and tried to kind of get us exposure. And, you know, one of the ideas was we'd make this record that maybe we'll try and get some radio play to get a different audience. And so that's what we tried to do. I think we failed, but we gave it a go.
Did you reach out to different audience at least from that release?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I think to some extent because we kind of accessed some different gigs with different people. So we certainly had a little bit of exposure. But, you know, I think it's about your age as well. You know, if you think when we started, we were 17 and now by this point, we're 20, 21, 22. We're kind of thinking, you know, is this something from my childhood? Should I leave this behind now? And all those kind of things are going on. And you need to kind of, you know, feel, I don't know, a different kind of direction might be appropriate. But
so after that, I think it was after that, you had an unreleased single called Hip Hip Hooray.
That's right.
Why was that unreleased, and what song titles? Did they ever got re-recorded or anything?
No, unfortunately, that's lost, that recording. It was done at Southern Studios, which is where all of the Crass records were done, and where John Loder ran things. But we have lost no, that's disappeared, the master for that.
Oh,
so
are there any live YouTube live thing or anything? Because there's a couple of videos of Omega Tribe from the old days and somebody posts a live version of Omega Tribe.
Sure. There is a tape. We did a live. It came out in cassette format only, live at the Clarendon. It's, you know, I think it's around, or people might have put versions of it somewhere. But I certainly got one. I wouldn't know where to get one now.
Also on your Facebook, you posted a thing called Punks for the Homeless. What is that about?
That's right. Well, Punks for the Homeless is an organisation that raises money for a children's charity called the Company Children's Charity, and we were due to play a gig in March, but I was really ill in March, and you know, I hadn't been ill like that for years, to be honest. And everyone's saying, "Oh, did you have the thing?" I don't know. I didn't have the breathlessness, but I had a really horrible flu, and I had this really chesty cough I couldn't get rid of. And it kind of took 3 weeks out of me, really. So it was a day where I'm feeling really ropey, but I'll try and do this gig because I don't want to let people down. But then Keith, who's playing guitar with us, he said, well, I'm also feeling really ropey. So we're like, well, this is probably not a good idea then. So we had to cancel. And then they were doing this kind of online festival, virtual festival thing, you know, because everyone's obviously shut in. So I offered, you know, to do a set. And so I did a set, just myself on the acoustic guitar.
I saw that video, yes.
Yeah, so that's what that is. And they're just guys, and they're really good, and they put on shows in London and all over England, actually, so all over the place, yeah.
Okay. What does anarchism mean to you?
What does it mean to me? I mean, I'm always a bit wary of kind of isms, you know, socialism, anarchism. I mean, I think I'm not really someone for political theory.
Uh,
Um, I mean, I've got, my ideas about the world. And I think, anarchism, if it means anything, it's taking responsibility to ensure that what you do impacts on other people in a positive way. Um, and, you take responsibility for managing yourself, your environment, your relationships in a way that has a positive impact on all of those things, on the world around you, your environment. As to whether it's a sustainable system, of course, it's a wonderful ideal.
uh-huh.
Uh, and Marxists will say it's the last stage of the revolution. The state withers away, and all the rest of it. But like people say, "Oh, are you socialist? Are you this?" I don't really like to say. Maybe that's just cowardice on my part or a lack of commitment. But I'd rather just say, well, I'm just kind of someone who believes in doing the right thing is doing the right thing, really, and whatever you want to call that. I'm certainly no fan of capitalism, and the sooner that ends, the better for the planet and all of us, really. But yeah, so I don't really. What does it mean to me? I suppose it's something that's been there all my life, and it's not something that I'm passionate about evoking or kind of promoting.
How has your views changed since you were a teenager, since the 80s?
How has
How has your political views have changed? Are they the same, or has it changed since the 80s?
I think I think broadly they're the same. I think your circumstances change.
Uh-huh.
So the world of work comes along, and once you find a job, it's something. I mean, I've always tried to do jobs that are useful and helpful in public sector. Um, and I guess you kind of think that actually these jobs need doing, and people need to do these jobs. Um, and I guess then you start to think about how people organise and how people maintain democratic structures, and unions, I think, are really important.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's one of the problems in the UK now, that there's a kind of a democratic deficit. People no longer have places to express themselves or to organise, like tenants associations or trade unions. These kind of organisations have all been kind of attacked by right-wing governments,
Right.
and I think they're very important things. Um, but I think that there are some constants through one's life. So the environmental issues were the same. Then I wrote pictures, which is about kind of pollution and the way that the earth is being damaged. And of course, things are much worse now. And I suppose. And that's a kind of sad reflection, really, to kind of have lived for a while and kind of look back and think, actually, some things are really a lot worse than they were. I mean, some things are better, but some things are a lot worse. And I think the environmental destruction that's going on around the world, and the spectres of things like fracking and the deforestation are a lot worse. Um, and I think the other thing that changes through your life is you know more, you learn more. Learning never stops, and I think you should commit to always learning and understanding, trying to understand your own prejudice, your own like racism, for example. I remember one quote is Alice Walker, the writer. She wrote a book called The Temple of My Familiar. And in there's a little section, it's like a mini gospel kind of thing. And one of the things she says is, helps is those who are the enemies of their own racism. So you have to get to know yourself and recognize your own prejudices and discriminatory kind of tendencies. We're all judgmental, and understand all of those things and learn. Learn from put yourself in other people's shoes. How does it feel to be poor? How does it feel to be black? How does it feel to be a woman in this society? All of those things I think are really important. So I guess that's what changes as you move through life. You learn more, you understand more, you question things, you see things differently, and you always look back and think, oh God, I wish I'd known now, known then what I know now. But that is life, isn't it?
Since you mentioned job earlier, what does all the members of Omega Tribe do for work?
Well, I work in a school. I'm a teacher. I've been a teacher since about my first job in the school was 1989.
What do you teach?
I teach in a primary school, so that's like an elementary school in the States.
Oh, that's
Uh,
hard with all the kids and stuff.
yeah. I mean, yeah. It's I always think every age group of children or
Uh-huh.
young people just brings different challenges. So, 4-year-olds are very needy and they want your attention all the time, and 16-year-olds have got other stuff going on that needs engaging with. So I don't think any age is easier or harder. I just think they've all got their own unique challenges, and they're very, very rewarding people to work with. Children, they're very receptive, they're very questioning,
Right.
and yeah, we have a lot of fun.
Oh, I'm just saying this because long time ago I used to be a swim instructor. I used to teach children
Uh,
swimming and stuff. That's why it was hard though. But
sure.
I work at a university and stuff. So
Okay. Yeah.
my
Still learning.
um
Daryl works in gardening.
oh, gardening. Okay,
He
they're
yeah,
also doing gardening, right?
yeah. That's what he does. So he comes to my school and does the gardens, the grounds
Really?
at my school.
Wow. Okay, tell us about your U.S. tour. The first and the second one. I saw you on the boat. What was
Right.
your experience with that tour? Tell us about some of the stuff that you liked or some of the stuff you disliked.
Yeah. Well, it was great. It was really wonderful opportunity. I'd love to do it again at some point in the not too distant future. Um, yeah, I mean, it's LA is an environmental catastrophe, isn't it? Really, all those cars. My God,
Was that first
12
time you've
lanes.
been in America on your first U.S.
Pardon?
Was that your first
Yeah.
time in America?
No, I when I was younger, I went to the east side, the
Oh,
east
okay.
coast. Camp counselor, that kind of thing, in a summer camp.
Oh, okay. Camp counselor.
Younger.
Right.
Yeah, and that was in Pennsylvania, and also I had a friend in New York, so I spent some time in Manhattan, which was great, and also some time in Illinois, which was a bit, ooh. I found the culture there quite difficult. It's very monocultural. I found it. You're either into this stuff
Uh,
or you're stuffed, basically, because there's not a lot else going on. So I can understand why people would move away from those places and come to the cities. But yeah, so a lot of driving, a lot of long distances, a lot of kind of eating trail mix and subways, because that's one of the few kind of vegan things you can find on the road. But a lot of really lovely people. That's my main memory. Met some amazing people
uh,
on both tours. And it was really good, really good. Some lovely musicians as well, some great bands, and some lovely events, and a really warm feeling, and a lot of very positive stuff. Yeah, it's really good.
was it strange to you meeting people who are into all your stuff, like that you released in the 80s? That was like many years ago, or have Omega Tribe tattoos or patches on their jacket. Was that really strange to you, or what?
I think so, but in a way, it's kind of like it's not about. That's not really about me. Okay, it's something that I did and I made it, but it's something that's just there in history, and other people, will access that and respond to that, and I can go back to it and listen to it in a way, because it's quite a long time ago, so it's not something that I um, live every day in the same way.
Uh-huh.
I mean, obviously, it's really nice. It's lovely that something we've done has kind of sustained, and it is still, listened to. Um, yeah, so it's lovely. It's very nice. Um,
Um,
but of course, I'm interested in new things as well, and it's nice to have the band back together. But from my point of view, the most important thing is now making new stuff and doing new things.
yes. Speaking of making new stuff, during your tour, I didn't have a chance to pick this up. I think you had a new CD out. It was a CD.
Yeah,
Tell us
yeah, we did.
what was the title of that
It
CD?
it was called Skin, and there were 4 songs on it.
Uh,
But we have re-recorded all of those songs because the quality wasn't great, to be honest.
I couldn't find that
So
in Bandcamp.
no, we didn't put it out on Bandcamp. The CD, I would apologise to anyone who bought it, because a lot of them were a bit defective, and one of the tracks makes a horrible noise
Oh,
through it.
really?
And the sound level was really poor. So the production, it was a bit of a rush job, to be honest. We wanted to try and get it out before we came to the States, so we had something. Yeah, and it was done on the cheap. We didn't spend enough time in the studio, and the guy in the studio didn't really give it the attention that we might have got if we'd worked with someone who cared about it. So we've remixed them, re-recorded, guitar tracks and vocals and things, and they're coming out on our new 6-track EP. We finished it, the artwork and everything's all done. So it's just obviously things are a little bit on hold with the situation around the world at the moment. But we have a 6-track EP called Out of My System that's coming out on Grow Your Own Records. And we made a video for one of the songs, and we've just put that up on our YouTube channel today. So if you check out Amiga Tribe on YouTube, you should find the video for System, which is one of that.
Also, back to that release, you had a song called Skinhead. What is that song about?
Well, I like to write songs that can be interpreted in different ways. So I think one of the main ideas of that song is that love is more powerful than hate. I mean, we were people who were targeted by skinheads when we were young, just because of the way we looked. And I suppose, all of us going through lives meet those people who are just bigoted and just vent their anger. Unfortunately, they're still there. And what do you do with those people? A lot of those people, this hatred and anger that those people have, where does it come from? Well, it comes from their own hurt a lot of the time, their own pain, their own shame. So the song touches on that, and I suppose it's set within the context of a relationship. Relationships can sometimes be quite problematic, and of course people get stuck in abusive relationships where they keep going back to someone when they know it's wrong for them and they know it's bad, but they keep throwing love at a person who responds with anger and hatred. So it's kind of touching on those kind of ideas, but the main idea of it is that love will always be more powerful than hate.
Also, like the band called The Business, they did a Crass cover, Do They Owe Us a Living? And I heard like bands like Infa Riot play with like anarcho band like Dirt and stuff. Was there any, like, in the long time ago, other faction of skinheads who supported your band or who supported the scene, like the anarcho punk scene like that, or were all the skinheads NF back then in the 80s?
No, they weren't all NF. Just the ones who came to see us were.
Oh,
no,
really?
We never really had. I mean, we had people who came to see us who had, a skinhead haircut, and were cool and were great. Yeah, but I think the whole scene became. It didn't start out like that. The whole skinhead culture, of course, came from a love of Jamaican ska music and the original kind of rude boy culture. But it did get taken over in the early to mid 80s by a lot of horrible elements who are very unpleasant and dangerous. Yeah.
It's 2020 now. I have to tell you something different now. Now, like in California in America, you have anarchist skinheads, you have red communist skinheads, you have rat. There are all kinds of skinheads now. Anti-racist skinheads, even skinheads who love anarcho punk stuff, even vegetarian, vegan skinheads. There's all kinds of skinheads now.
Sure. I mean, I have absolutely nothing against skinheads personally.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people.
Yes, but I did read a lot of stuff during the Crass days, like with problem with skinheads and stuff in the 80s, and I saw some of the pictures of it. They look like monsters. They had like tattoos on their neck and their face. They were really big. Yeah. They look crazy and stuff. I mean, that's 1982 photos. I saw some of those photos. And
I'm very racist.
And last year you played a festival with Peter and the Test Tube Babies in Antiposity.
The Morecambe Punk Festival.
Yeah. Yes. How was that then with all those old bands?
I mean, It was okay. I mean, the event itself was great. I had a really lovely time in Morecambe. It was really good. Um, it's kind of, I don't know. There's a part of me that feels when I was a kid,
Uh-huh.
you used to get rock and roll revival nights, and all the old people would put on their Teddy Boy stuff and their rock and roll. The women would put on their kind of big rock and roll skirts. And sometimes I think the punk thing, it's a bit like that sometimes, you know. And sometimes we've played, and you kind of feel that, oh, this is just like such a nostalgia thing. I'm not sure if it's very, interesting. Um, but I don't know. That event itself was fine, but Peter and Test Tube Babies, we did play with them at a gig. Did we play with them? I think we did in big Brixton Ace in the 80s. Up Your Bum and Band from the Pubs, and yeah, it was quite funny at the time. And but I didn't see them. They were supposed to play like just after us or just before us or something, and they actually changed and played during the day. So by the time we got there, they'd been and gone. But there were lots of good bands, very tight punk bands playing that event. But I didn't see anyone from the old days that I remembered or names that I knew.
Oh, I thought like these kind of festivals and Rebellion Fest will bring all the old punks out. So not that many old punks from the 80s came out to these.
There certainly were a lot of older people there.
Uh-huh.
Some who I know, like Andy T, was there.
Oh, Andy T, yes. I used to have the 7.
Yeah, he was there. I don't think he was playing, or he might have been playing on a different night from us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, no, there was quite younger people as well. It was it's a very good event. I would go back and play that again. It's a nice event. Yeah, it's well organised, and yeah, it works very well.
Okay. Now we have question from my friend Jacoby from beginning of the End fanzine. He texted me this.
Sure.
He has 3 questions. First question is, Omega Tribe have always been on the brighter shade of the scene, rejecting the nihilistic ethos which was scattered behind from bands like Pistols. Why do you think it is important to use your music as a medium for message of peace and camaraderie rather than spewing negativity?
Well, I think that's just who we are. I mean, I don't want to go out and, I don't like that side of punk rock. I don't like that nihilistic, destructive side of it. I didn't like it at the time, and I don't like it now. It's recently people have started talking about politicians, people like Boris Johnson, who is the UK Prime Minister, being a kind of punk rock because all he did, he was one of the people who was very instrumental in getting us out of the European Union, because he just made up rubbish all the time, made up stories that weren't true, and he knew they weren't true. And his work was because he was based in Brussels in Europe. His work was described as throwing bottles over a wall, and you don't care what damage you do or what you hit. It's just total nihilism. Someone referenced this as being like punk rock. Malcolm McLaren at the time manipulating the Pistols, just making them appear shocking, and and that was the totality of it, and nothing beyond that. It's easy to destroy things. It's much, much harder to build things. And yeah, that's not who we are. Everyone has their nihilistic moments. Everyone has their, fuck this, I've had enough of this. Let's pack it all in or whatever. Everyone has those moments. But I think if you're going to reach out to people, I mean, that's, why anyone does music or performing. You're kind of reaching out, and I anyway want contact with people and want to try and get that kind of support for expressing my worldview and understanding events and things that have happened from other people. If you're going to do that, then why be negative? Why not just say, look, we're human, we're in this together, and let's have a positive experience together. It's just who we are.
And Jacoby, for beginning of the fans, his second question, he has 3. His second question was, who was your favorite band to play with back in the early days of the band, and why were they so special to you guys?
Well, I think that my favorite band to play with were Poison Girls. Mm-hmm. We didn't play with them a lot. We played with them a bit. We did a little tour in Holland when we were just starting out with them. And of course, they were older than us. And Lance de Boyle, the drummer, got very close to him through my life. Very, very sad when he passed away just a couple of years ago. And yes, so and they were intelligent, and they were willing to spend time with us, and they helped us. And their gigs were always very well organised and very together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it would be them. They would be my favourite band of the bands that we played with. Yeah.
Oh, just curious. When you say the gig is very well organized, what do you mean by that? Like how?
Well, just the atmosphere. There would be, you'd know exactly what was happening and who was going to do what, and nothing was going to break or go wrong, or that kind of thing. Yeah, and it would always be a good show that had been thought about, and the people who were on the bill knew what they were doing, and yeah.
Did Poison Girls have a lot of banners on stage and everything too?
They did.
Backdrops.
Yeah. I mean, they were another band who went through, musical changes. When I first saw them, they were, quite sort of stark, and the Totally. I don't know if you've heard Total Exposure.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was the kind of thing that they were like when I first saw them, and there was quite an edge to them, quite a sort of a challenging edge that was I really, really liked. And then they went on and produced more became more about songs and more subtle songs, which was also great. They made some great albums.
And question 3. Do you still believe our world can still heal itself after all the obstruction and degradation which humans have caused? Do you still have the hope for our world? If so, why should we hold on to this hope?
It's a good question. I mean, yes, of course we can fix this. Of course we can. We absolutely have the capacity. I mean, I remember seeing Noam Chomsky speak live, who is, he's great. I think he's a wonderful thinker, and he gave all this long talk about it, all the things that are corrupt and wrong and damaging in the world, and he just concluded very briefly by saying, of course, the world doesn't have to be like this. It's up to us to change, and it is up to us to change it. So, in whatever small way we can, if enough people climb on the right side of the scales, on the right side of the balance, well, we will reach tipping point and we will reach critical mass. It's very difficult. It's very easy to think, absolutely no point, that the world's going to hell in a handcart. There's nothing anyone can do about it. And I'm sure all of us have moments when we think like that. Mm-hmm. But I believe in people. Life is a wonderful thing. It's even better when you reach out and connect with people who are like-minded and share some love and openness with people. Those are the best times in life. And if you have that mindset and you believe that anything is possible, and never give up hope, is my view.
And he has a comment. He wanted to let you know, thank you to Omega Tribe for helping me discover new avenues of thoughts and being beacons of light in my life. Cheers. Jacoby from Beginning of the End fanzine.
All right. Well, it's a lovely thing to say, Jacoby. Thank you very much. So thank you to you.
Hey, speaking of Noam Chomsky, I tried to read his book a couple of times. Like, if I read his book, I got to have a dictionary next to me because he used so many hard words I can't even fucking understand. I was like, what the fuck?
Absolutely. Well, I think that's why I went to see him speak, because it's easier. Just let him talk to you.
I couldn't finish the book. It was so hilarious and stuff. But back to Omega Tribe now. Are you familiar with anarcho goth? Like it's punk bands playing goth music, but they have the anarcho message and stuff.
That sounds really good. I'm not sure if I've seen that or not. I know that some of the bands that we played, there was a band called Medusa Stare.
Yes, it's one of my friends. Yes, they're from Seattle. Yes.
They really, I love what they do, and I love the way they remind me of the old, in the 80s, you had people like Annie Anxiety.
Yes, Annie Anxiety. Yes.
you would get, and they have a poet that works with them, and you would get a poet would come on stage and be with a band. They would, like we had Moet the poet who was on our album. He would come on and do a little short set, and you can imagine kind of some of these quite kind of febrile punk rock gig atmospheres. People would always find a most receptive audience for poetry, but I think that kind of stuff is really interesting because I kind of sometimes punk gigs can be a bit formulaic, and you kind of know what the music's going to do next, and you know what's going to happen. You're going to get your intro, then you get and I'm interested in those. So if there are more bands like that around, then that's got to be a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, there's few bands around like that in America, like Mystic Priestess and stuff. The reason I'm mentioning this is like next time when you come back to California, I would love to see Omega Tribe playing with those types of bands, and not just the music and stuff.
Absolutely, that would be lovely. And also a shout to Headdress as well, because they're a really interesting band. They've got some lovely tunes and a bit.
Yes, Headdress is amazing too. They do a Blitz cover when Blitz went new wave.
Okay.
You remember like towards the late '80s, they went new wave with the keyboard and everything. Yeah, Headdress do a Blitz cover. Do you have a copy of this book? Have you seen this? And All Around Was Darkness.
I don't think so. No.
It has all the release, and Omega Tribe is in here as well.
Oh, cool.
It came out in the UK. It's really interesting. It's all about the whole anarcho-punk and peace punk days from the 80s. Written by like the people who went to the shows and couple band members and stuff like that. Yeah. Wow, that's almost an hour interview. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna upload this tomorrow on YouTube.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you so much for taking your time to do this interview. Stay safe.
It's a pleasure.
And I really want to see Omega Tribe again next year. I saw both of your 2 tours. My band actually opened up for your band and stuff at one of the shows. But thing is, I would love to see Omega Tribe with more of the playing with anarcho goth bands. So that would be really amazing.
Yeah, look forward to it.
Yeah,
look forward to it. Thank you very much for hooking up. Very, very good to talk to you, and all the best.
Yes, and stay safe, and I'll keep in touch with you online.
Absolutely, nice one. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Make tea, not war. I'm drinking yerba mate tea.
Beautiful. Enjoy.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Make tea, not war. All right. Take care.
You too. Thank you. Bye. Bye.